In order to rid ourselves of any kind of pain and suffering, any physical pain or emotional pain, we must become aware of how often we are feeding the pain. Because if that pain is persisting in your life, if that pain and suffering has become a larger part of your life than it should, it can only mean that you are keeping it alive by feeding it. But even if our pain is always hungry, we don't have to keep feeding it. We just have to become aware of the fact that we are feeding it and in which ways we are feeding it. And that there is this entirely different part of us, of our system, of our mind and body connection that is starving each and every time we are feeding our pain, either consciously or subconsciously. We are starving our peace. But we can start feeding our peace instead. Just noticing the pain is enough to feed it. And we don't think about that enough because we are so used to just noticing and stating the facts, right? So if pain has become this big part of our lives, of course we notice it. Of course we talk about it. Of course we think about it. But that is keeping the pain alive, because every time we think about the pain, we notice the pain, we are feeding it. And what we feed can only grow stronger. And this is because of the mind-body connection. I dare to say that there is no more powerful and direct connection we as human beings can ever experience than the mind-body connection. As in whatever we focus on, whatever we feed our minds with, will always provide a corresponding emotion and a corresponding physical reaction in our body. And that goes both ways. So if we are focusing on or feeding our brains with stuff that allows us to feel good, with stuff that we like, that will provide a positive emotion and a positive biological response in our bodies, and vice versa. Pain is, in a very large part, created with our mind because of our thoughts leading to an emotion, leading to a physical response. And there are so many reasons why we either consciously or subconsciously, most often subconsciously, keep feeding our pain. We have so many reasons to keep feeding our pain, and it might even look like we're doing something good for ourselves. It might even look like we are working on healing when we are in fact just feeding the pain. For example, we feed our pain, whether it be physical or emotional pain, by telling people about it, by telling our old story, and we do that to explain why things are the way that they are, why we are feeling the way we are feeling, why our lives are looking the way they are looking right now, so that people can understand us, right? But the thing is that every time we tell that old story, every time we use our thoughts and our words to explain what is going on with us, in what way we are experiencing pain and why we are experiencing pain, we might think it's for a good cause, as in making or helping people understand us. But that is feeding the pain. We are then, each and every time, reminding our body to feel that pain because we talk about it, we think about it, we remind our entire system about it. That's the mind-body connection. And sometimes it feels like that pain has become a part of our identity, of who we are. If we have experienced any kind of pain or suffering or trauma for a long time, and we have kept the momentum alive for a long time by revisiting that old story and telling that old story to ourselves or to others, it is very hard to notice anything else in our bodies, in our minds, or in our lives in general that is not about pain. Because this builds momentum in our minds. The more we notice pain, the more we think about pain, the more we talk about pain, the more we fill our minds with pain. So that will only make it easier for the mind to notice everything aligned with pain in some sort of way. And in turn, that shapes our lives and that shapes what we think is our identity. I have been in pain for such a long time that it affects everything in my life. It affects my health. It affects my body. It affects my life choices. It affects what I do or don't do in my life. So this is who I am now. Now, who would I be without that pain? We might even not be able to think of a different story to tell because we have been filling our minds with this pain for years and years. So we are not making any room for our minds to see that there exists more than this pain in our lives. So it becomes this automatic response, this autopilot reaction to everything. And we don't know who we are without this pain anymore. So then it's not even for a particularly bad or good reason. It just feels like who we are. It's just what we notice. And we forget that there is other stuff to think about or notice in our lives. And very often, I think, we feed our pain because we actually think that we are doing it for a good reason, for a good cause, as in trying to fix it, trying to resolve it, or trying to figure it out. So maybe you have experienced something painful in your life, and you notice that it has been taking up more and more space in your life. So of course, you want to do something about it. You want to understand why this happened to you or how this happened to you. So maybe you keep talking to friends about it, or you go to therapy and talk about it, or you continue to think about it, because our egos, our minds loves to have a problem to fix, to find a solution to. So we are thinking and believing that I am working on myself to figure this out. But in fact, what we are doing is feeding the pain, because a problem created by the ego can never be fixed with the ego. A problem created in our minds can never be fixed with the mind that caused the problem. And that doesn't go to say that you created this problem directly. Because of course you might have experienced something that translate into a problem in your mind. But the thing is, even bad things, objectively, are just happenings, are just things. So we label it, we look at it as a problem in our mind. And of course, there are several things that even objectively may seem like a problem because it's not a good happening. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm just saying that by trying to heal it, by revisiting it, reliving it, thinking about it, focusing on it, we are in fact making it last longer and stronger, because there are other ways to heal, better ways to heal than revisiting the problem over and over and over again. And we all do this because it's so natural to talk about and discuss and analyze what is actually happening and what we are actually experiencing. For example, me, when I had my 5 years of illness, I was constantly talking to my friends about it because I was wanting to figure out why I got sick in the first place, what my illness actually was, and how I could fix it. So I talked to doctors about it, I talked to my friends about it, and most importantly, all of the time, I talked to myself about it. And I really thought that was for a good cause, because of course I must figure out this problem so that I can fix it, so that I can heal from it. But today I do see that in that way of going about it, I only made it persist because all of these thoughts, this focus, was continuously telling my mind-body connection, I am ill, I am in pain, there is something wrong with me, I'm not feeling right, we have a problem. And that tells my emotions and my physical body that there is a problem. So let's remember that problem. Let's produce emotions of having a problem. Let's produce physical reactions of there being a problem. And the only reason I have come to see that this was not the best way for me to heal today is because of a different experience. It's because of a different way of going about it than feeding the pain, which we will get back to. But these are just, I think it's important for us to actually talk about and see the reasons for why we are feeding the pain and how we might not even notice or think about it as feeding the pain, because these are such natural things to do with our minds and in our minds that we must become aware of it in order to do something differently, because we cannot change what we are not aware of. So this is me inviting you to think about the different ways in which you might be feeding whatever kind of pain you are experiencing in your life. And there's also a very important aspect to consider in this as well, which is the fact that we can always gain something from feeding the pain, from staying in the pain. We can gain maybe some sort of acceptance or understanding or sympathy or even attention. And again, this is not the same as us doing this on purpose, but we have so much subconscious programming that especially the ego does what it can to survive. And the ego always wants us to have this problem to churn on, to work on, and to rely on. So for instance, when I was ill, I could not do very much more than just after going to work. When I could go to work, I just stayed in bed because I was feeling so tired and so sick and horrible. And of course, me continuously focusing on and telling the people close to me about this problem, about this illness, that provided me some sort of understanding for why my life was standing still, for why I needed to rest, for why I couldn't be as social, or why I couldn't contribute as much as I wanted to in everyday life tasks, for example. And we have this urge, I think, to make people understand us, to make people relate to us, to hear us, to see us. And having a very strong experience in any kind of way will make it more visible. The reason why we are the way we are, why our lives are the way that they are, is very visible. So we gain something from having this visible problem. You see? So it could be any kind of reason. It could be attention, it could be sympathy, empathy, understanding, or just a reason for yourself to stay in that comfort zone. I cannot do this and that. Of course I cannot, because I'm experiencing this pain, right? That's the ego talking. So yeah, let's just start by being aware of there being so many different reasons for us to focus on the pain, to relive the pain, to talk about the pain, to think about the pain, that might even look like good things. That might even look like we're doing it for a good reason. But the thing is, if we have been doing that same thing for a good reason for a very long time and nothing seems to have changed, it might be the time to consider going about it differently. It might be the time to consider the fact that maybe this is actually keeping my pain alive rather than fixing it. Maybe this is not the way to fix it. Maybe this is not the way to change it. Eckhart Tolle calls this living in the pain body, which we can call, I guess, the sum of our former beliefs and past traumas and experiences that has left us experiencing suffering in some sort of way, pain in some sort of way, and the body and mind remembers that and programs that. So it builds momentum and makes us look for more aligned with that. And I like to think of the opposite of the pain body as the peace body. And what I like to do, if and when I want to shed my pain body and enter my peace body instead, I like to picture me having two parts of my body. One is the pain body, the pain that always is hungry, the pain that always wants to be fed. And the other part of me as the peace body, the part of me that doesn't want to feel the pain, that doesn't want to feel the drama, that doesn't want to always keep thinking about a problem or suffering or noticing that or telling my old story, the part of me that wants new experiences, that wants healing. Because the pain body doesn't really want healing, it wants to stay in pain. Because it believes that we need this pain for our identity, for understanding, for sympathy, for attention, whatever it might be. The peace body knows that I don't need nor want the pain body to be active in me. And the thing is, these two parts of our body, of our system, cannot both survive at once. So I like to picture having this set amount of brain food, as in my thoughts, to give away during a day. So each and every time I have a thought that leads to a noticeable emotion or physical reaction that either feels good or bad, as in not being neutral, I am giving away some of that brain food to either the pain body or the peace body. And the way that I know which one I am feeding is, of course, by noticing how I feel. If I feel bad, if I feel pain, if I feel suffering in some sort of way, I have been giving away that food thought to my pain body. If I'm feeling good, if I'm feeling lighter, if I'm feeling better, any kind of positive emotion, I have been giving that part of my brain food away to the peace body. And each and every time I have a thought that provides a very strong emotion, either negative or positive, I have been taking a new chunk of the set amount of brain food I have in a day and giving it away to either one of them. So when the day comes to an end and all of my brain food has been fed, the question is, which one has been fed the most? And my goal is to make sure that my peace body has been fed the most, that my peace body has been given most of my attention, most of my thoughts, most of my focus. Because then I can go to bed that day knowing that the peace body has grown stronger and the pain body has grown weaker. And each day I do that, my peace body will grow stronger and stronger and stronger. And since they cannot both exist at the same time, what will happen in the end? I will have shedded my pain body and gone into my peace body. But the thing is, if we are experiencing this pain and suffering for a long time and seeing that it has grown into a very large part of our lives, we should ask ourselves, which part of my body do I want to stay in? And it might seem like a silly question, but because of the reasons for us feeding the pain body that we just went through, it might be very necessary to ask yourself that question, because maybe there's this part of you that, at least up until now, has believed that you will gain more benefit from staying in the pain body. For example, your ego, our egos, is kind of addicted to the drama because of it always needing and wanting to have this problem to churn on, this problem to fix, this problem to work on. So it loves the drama. It loves there being something wrong, there being something negative to talk about or to think about. And if we have stayed in that for too long, there might be a part of us that's afraid life will be boring without the drama. Life will not be rewarding without the drama. Because every time we engage in this drama in some sort of way, the pain body feels an instant reward. You might have noticed that if you engage in a conversation about someone or something with someone else, you talk about something in a negative way and you just share your negative thoughts about that. And you get like, yeah, I know, I feel it. And you get this adrenaline and you feel like you're vibing, and it kind of feels good to feel bad in that way. I'm sure you can relate to this. So that gives an instant reward. And we might have this belief that if we stop being addicted to the trauma, life will be so boring. But the thing is, we only think that when we are staying in the pain body, because the pain body doesn't know a life without the pain, without the trauma. And I can say, hand on heart, that there is absolutely nothing boring about staying and living and experiencing your life through your peace body. Today, I cannot stand the drama. I cannot stand the negativity. And it's not boring. It's my natural state, because you open for so many new experiences and insights about yourself when you return to peace, when you return to your natural state of being. And you don't attach your feelings or your wants or your desires to these outside circumstances. You just choose to feel good and choose to only notice what makes you feel good, and whatever makes you feel bad, you stop giving attention to. And your life just expands and you just feel better than you ever thought would be possible. But you cannot see or understand that while still in the pain body. So it's kind of impossible to explain it. But you have to try it, to actually experience it for yourself. And I promise you, once you do that, you never want to put on the pain body again. But I would actually recommend to start by asking yourself that question. Because it's very helpful to see that there is a part of you thinking that your life will be less if you stop feeding the pain body. That's just because you don't know what peace feels like yet. Once you see that, you can play with a thought. Open up for this question that you might never have opened up to before. Asking yourself, what could my life look and feel like if I entered and only fed my peace body? What could it actually bring me to not spend most of my days, most of my thoughts, most of my energy living in this fight or flight reaction, living in the drama, living in the pain, only thinking about pain, only talking about pain, only feeling pain? In the absence of that, what new experiences and new emotions could life open up for me if I made room for that? Chances are you haven't even gone that far to imagine a better reality. And that is just your pain body, your ego, refusing to let you go there. But once you open for that, you will find your own reasons to understand why it might be worthwhile to stop feeding your pain. So when and if you reach the conclusion that you want to shed, you want to rid yourself of the pain body and enter the peace body to see what it actually feels like, then the question naturally is, how do I do that? And the first thing is to stop telling your old story. Stop telling it to others. Stop telling it to yourself. Stop thinking in ways of your old story. For me, just to provide an example, after these 5 years of illness that I had, I just reached the conclusion, because I had done and tried and thought about and gotten help with everything I possibly could to rid myself of that disease, of that pain, and heal in 5 years. And I was not feeling any better. I was just feeling exhausted and drained. And I think I needed to experience it for such a long time to just reach the point where I saw that feeding my pain is what I'm doing, and feeding my pain is not ridding myself of the pain. It is not healing my pain. It's only making it stronger. So I am grateful it went on for 5 years, because that really led me there to get to that conclusion. I'm done with this. I need to try something else. That's the conclusion that I reached. And what I saw in that moment was that the only thing I haven't tried is to stop focusing on this pain, is to stop thinking about what brought me this pain, why I'm feeling this pain, how I can rid myself of this pain. To actually stop thinking about this pain and illness at all. Well, how can I do that? I also thought, because pain and illness is the only thing that I'm experiencing in my life right now. No, it is not. This voice came and whispered to me, probably the voice of my peace body that I had just opened the doorway to when I decided there might be another way. So my peace body came in and whispered, well, you are still alive. You are still here. You have just reached a new conclusion. You have just decided to try something new. So that in itself is proof that you have more in your life than just this pain right now. So then I just made a decision. I wouldn't, when people asked me how I was feeling, which they often did because they knew I was ill. So of course I answered, oh, I'm feeling this and this, I'm having these and these symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Telling them what my story was. But now I realized I need to stop telling that story if I want to create new in my life. I stopped telling my old story, but that doesn't mean you have to be untruthful. It only means you have to look at other truths as well. So for me, that went from, I'm feeling nauseous, I'm feeling tired, I have pains here and there, nothing seems to be changing, blah, 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 to, I am learning to feel better. I'm doing what I can to teach my body how to feel better. I am focusing on whatever small things in my life that feels good to me, even if it's just something that happens for 2 minutes during my day. That is what I will focus on. That is how I will start feeding the peace body instead of feeding the pain body. So stop telling your old story by gently reframing your truth to something that is leaning in the direction towards peace rather than pain. If you have emotional pain, emotional trauma, instead of saying, I'm having a bad week, I'm having a bad period in my life, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling this and that. Well, what have you decided to do just now? Well, I am trying my best to provide new experiences for my mind and body. I am learning how to heal in a new way. I am teaching my body and my brain to think new thoughts. For example, only you can know the answer to this, but just gently reframe your truth into a lighter one, into one that is aligned with your peace body more than your pain body. And with time, the more you start feeding your peace body in whatever way is the right way for you regarding your circumstances, your type of pain, your type of specific experience, the more you do that, the more you feed your peace body, the stronger it will grow, which means that in time it will come natural and automatic to you to notice whenever you forgot and you started feeding your pain body instead with your thoughts, because you probably will do that a lot of times in the beginning because you have been doing it for such a long time and your mind just wants to continue taking that same path until you have shown it to walk this new path enough times that that becomes its automatic way. But the more you feed your peace body, the more you will notice automatically when you have been feeding the pain body, because you will not like the negativity. You will not like or enjoy to revisit the pain, to revisit the trauma, to feel bad. You will not like to feel bad anymore because of the fact that you cannot stay in both bodies at once. So each and every time you then notice that, oh, I just fed my pain body, which means I gave a chunk of my set amount of food thought to my pain body because it feels bad, which means I must have been feeding this part of me. Luckily, I still have enough brain food left for the day that I can feed to my peace body. I think it's a very good visual example to just allow yourself to notice who you are feeding. Sometimes we just need to picture something to make it easier to notice what we're doing. So it's almost like the Cookie Monster for me. This blue Cookie Monster is the pain monster. And then I have this green fluffy thing that is my peace body. So I just picture, which one did I just feed? How am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm feeling bad. Well, I just fed you, but now I will make sure the rest of my brain food goes to you. Just there, if you find that you are actually more tired of staying in your pain body than you have realized until you started actually opening for these questions. Who am I feeding? And what will my life look like if I only feed this pain body? How would life feel like? What will I do? What will I experience? What will I talk about? Who will I be as the pain monster? And what could my life look like? What would interest me? What would bring me joy? Who will I be in relation to others if I feed my peace body? Just dare to believe that there is a peaceful life waiting for you that will not be boring. You will not experience any lack because of the lack of drama. Because the lack of drama will create room for things that you have never even thought about being possible in your life. You cannot see or experience these things until you have actually decided to stay in your peace body. Because this is actually the only way to truly heal whatever you want to heal in your life, whatever kind of pain or suffering you are experiencing. You have to stop feeding the pain. You have to, number one, become aware how often you are feeding the pain, in what ways you are feeding the pain, and for what reasons you are feeding the pain. And you have to consider, you have to dare to imagine how life would be if you were feeding the peace body instead. Then you will heal. And this again is because of the mind-body connection. Whatever made you ill, whatever made you feel pain, it grew because of your mind-body connection. It grew because you fed it. So if that has become such a strong negative emotion in your life due to you feeding it with your thoughts, with your words, imagine what strong, positive, helpful, loving emotions you can actually give yourself. Choose yourself. Bring into your life yourself. By feeding it something new, by feeding this other part of you. That is when you heal. And you will not lose your identity. You will only lose that part of your ego that thinks it's a part of your identity. But by losing that part of your ego, you will actually make more room for your true identity. Because you are not your pain, you are not your suffering. You are what lies beyond that, what wants more from life. And that can only come to the surface once you get to know how often you feed your pain. Once you get to know that what you think is doing you good is actually doing you bad. And that there is this whole other world to experience if you give your food thoughts to this other part of you. Just enter your peace era and nothing will be the same. Thank you.